What?
I think we've just been insulted.
No, Cammy, wait. Is anybody here?
Fears, an evil spirit, is summoned by his boss, Mr. Morgo, for not leaving the world in a state of terror by unleashing his demons. In turn, Fears explains how two teenage ghosts, Nikki and Tara Rowland, have been ruining his plans for the longest time. Mr. Morgo simply puts up their clip on a screen nearby and listens as Fears also blames an amateur magician named Max Doyle. Apparently, Max not only helped Nikki and Tara escape Fears, he also promised to help them find Michelle and Michael Rowland, their parents. Max used to be alone, a dork even, but he's now popular because of Fears messing up the last time he tried to unleash ghosts upon the human realm. As they speak, Cammy, Max's girlfriend, practices her dance moves, and Max just watches her with excitement. Anyway, Mr. Morgo decides to give Fears a second chance only because they are related, but this time he wants Fears to get rid of Max Doyle.
Do you know why you're here, Fierce?
In the human dimension, Max waits until his girlfriend's dance practice is over and walks her out, assuring her that she's the best dancer ever. Then Aaron, also a dancer, critiques her moves, leaving Max to counter his point. Things get tricky when they come across Mr. Kwon, Cammy's dance instructor, who's now sad because they have to pay an entrance fee to participate in the regionals. Worse off, they have 7 days to raise the cash. As a devastated Mr. Kwon exits, Max assures Cammy that they'll find a way. Unfortunately, his way involves a charity seance with an assurance that ghosts will appear. Students troop into Max's house that night, seeing as his parents took Colin, his older brother, to go visit some colleges. Cammy gathers all the guests round a table in the basement while Max heads upstairs to wear his magician's outfit. Too bad he falls on his butt while putting on his cape.
Yeah, I guess I am.
Anyway, he summons Nikki and then Tara, who opens up about feeling used. To Max, they're his best friends, but to the ghost siblings, he's been using them for magic tricks without finding their parents as promised. Tara temporarily drops her complaints for the sake of the seance, and Max approaches his guests. In place of a crystal ball, he uses an empty fishbowl, raising skepticism among his guests. Ignoring their doubts, he asks them to hold hands and then asks any spirits present to give them a sign. As planned, Nikki and Tara appear, with Tara floating a candle and Nikki setting off an alarm clock nearby. All of Max's guests are in awe as the ghost siblings take things up a notch. One of the guests believes it's all cheap tricks, adding that he wants a refund if he's not going to see any ghosts. As though summoned, a structure begins to emerge from the desk in front of them, worrying even Tara and Nikki. For a moment, no one knows what's going on, until Lulu, former maid to the Rowlands, appears. It turns out she was summoned by Max's seance.
Maybe they're just shy.
Excited, Tara and Nikki inquire about their parents, and Lulu reveals that they're still alive. Unfortunately, Fears sent them to the Elsewhere, a place meant for neither mortals nor ghosts. Lulu explains that it's impossible to find, seeing as the Elsewhere does the finding, but none of this dissuades the ghost siblings from wanting to find their parents. Thunder strikes incessantly at this point, and Lulu takes this as her signal to leave. She blows a kiss to Nikki and Tara, and then disappears into the night. Only Max could see the whole thing, so the other kids are freaked out, so much so that they want nothing to do with him. One after the other, they take their money back and bolt out of the basement afraid. Cammy tries to explain that it's all tricks, but Max doesn't utter a word.
Max, I think I should go.
At the same time, Max's family returns, only to witness a bunch of kids coming out of their basement. Cammy pulls Max outside, sad that they can no longer afford the dance contest. Her sadness turns into anger as she yells at Max for taking things too far. She then insinuates that ghosts aren't real, and when Max admits that they are, she accuses him of lying. Dumbfounded, Max just watches as an angry Cammy walks out on him and possibly literally his life. To make things worse, Colin shows up with a broom, telling Max that he'll have to clean the basement. A dejected Max doesn't even get a chance to breathe before Tara and Nikki appear, wanting to know how they'll reach the elsewhere. Max ignores them though and just heads to the basement. Meanwhile, Fears has a sinister smile on his face as he searches for a way back into the human dimension. Getting up, he scans his trusty globe of Earth until he comes across a location that fits his purposes, the Grover Mansion. With this, he promises once again to get Max.
And that's where our parents are?
After school the next day, Max tracks Cammy down with a smushed cupcake. She breaks away from her friends to talk to him, mentioning how much of a good guy he is. Max can feel a but coming, and Cammy proves him right. She asks for a break from their relationship, and nothing Max says changes her mind. Sadly, Max gets worse news the moment he gets home. His folks want to sell their home to move closer to Colin's school, and didn't even consider asking Max about it. He rushes to his room to break the news to Tara and Nikki, but they already know. What's terrible about the situation is that the ghost siblings are tied to Max's home forever, always having to come back to it no matter how far they go. Having put on the TV, Nikki changes the channel until Simon Drake, a self-proclaimed ghost hunter, pops up. As it turns out, Simon's next episode will be hosted at the Grover Mansion on Cliff Road, a house so haunted it was nicknamed the Doom House.
Forever.
Simon goes on to invite everyone to join him for a special episode there come midnight on Friday and calls it One Night in Doom House. Seeing the commercial, Max has an idea. He recalls summoning Lulu by mistake and wonders what would happen if they have a professional like Simon on their side. Tara buys the idea almost immediately, seeing it as a chance to find her parents. The next morning, Max rides his bike all the way to the abandoned Grover house, only to find Simon's truck also abandoned outside. Curious, Max approaches the door and knocks, and it opens by itself. The moment Max enters, the door shuts behind him. The entire house is covered in cobwebs and dust, so Max treads as carefully as he can, announcing himself whenever he enters a new room. The dining room is dim, with music playing on its own and an abandoned feast with rats littering the table. Solemnly, Max climbs up the stairs, only to be frightened by a pop-up clown.
Is anybody here?
Things get scarier as he hears a baby crying, and Max tracks it down, only to find a tattered doll blinking as it returns his gaze. Scared by a mirror with a clown in it, Max runs in the opposite direction and suddenly finds himself in a room with a coffin. All the doors around him slam shut, and when he attempts to open one of them, the knob comes off. He stumbles backwards from the force of letting go and finds himself trapped in the coffin. Max starts to yell for anyone to help him. Luckily, Simon and his agent, Beverly, find him in time. Max runs out of the coffin the moment it's opened, and Simon gives him hell for messing with his set. In turn, Max tries to get a moment alone with him, but Beverly insists that Max leave. Before departing, Max mentions how scary it'll be if the coffin creaked, and Simon gives him a chance to explain what he means.
Well, I need to talk to Mr. Drake.
Then Max adjusts the hinges of the coffin. After trying it out, Beverly has no choice but to give Max 5 minutes with Simon. Max explains his situation with Tara and Nikki, watching as Simon steps on a sensor which activates the clown mirror. At this point, Simon calls Felicia, one of his assistants, to clean the mirror. It turns out that the crying baby was also a prop, and Simon calls Felicia once again to increase the volume of the crying. While he makes a few more adjustments to the house, Simon takes a moment to ask if Max is crazy. When Max claims he's not, Simon doesn't believe him. He concludes that Max must be another kid with an overactive imagination, so he gives him a signed headshot instead of taking him seriously. In response, Sam writes his home address at the back of the photograph and hands it back to Simon, pleading with him to come check things out when he has the time. He leaves after this, and Beverly shows up to ask Simon some questions. In response, Simon hands her the picture with Max's address, still convinced that he's as crazy as his other fans.
So that's why you do all this fake stuff?
Back at the Doyle house, Colin and his dad John are moving furniture for a chance to remodel one room first. Colin starts by moving a potted plant, leaving Tara and Nikki wondering what they can do to stop it. Soon, they conclude that the house can't be sold if it's not remodeled. With this in mind, the ghost siblings move the potted plant back into the room, while Colin and his dad move a chair. They return to meet the plant in its previous spot, but brush past the confusion in no time. John then offers to take it back before fetching a ladder and asks Colin to get a painting his wife, Harriet, made. The ghost siblings wait for a moment, and just when Colin retrieves the painting, he bumps into the same potted plant his dad moved. While he hangs up the painting, Tara and Nikki move a chair into his crosshairs, causing Colin to stumble and land face first on the ground. John returns to find Colin sprawled on the floor and yells at him to get up. He even blames Colin for moving the plant back. Colin tries to explain that he's innocent, but once again, his dad doesn't believe him.
So what's the plan?
Moving on, John asks Colin to help move the couch, so they both head back into the room. They lift the couch easily, but it gets to a point where the weight becomes too much. Both men start to blame each other for not lifting when, in truth, Tara and Nikki are sitting on it. Colin and his dad switch places but are still unable to lift the couch, so John asks Colin to throw a sheet over it. He then leaves to answer his wife's call, and the ghost siblings wrap Colin in the sheet. Confused, the poor boy struggles with the sheet until he falls on his butt beside his dad's ladder. The paint bucket that was on top of said ladder chooses now to fall on the face of an unlucky Colin. The ruckus attracts his parents' attention, and while they yell at Colin, the ghost siblings just laugh and disappear.
All right, let's go nowhere.
That afternoon, Max rides his bike home. On the way, he runs into Cammy waiting outside her place and stops for a moment to talk. They're still discussing their broken relationship when Aaron pulls up in a much cooler motorcycle. Instantly, Max feels like crap. He asks about the dance competition, only to discover that Aaron's dad, Norm, covered the entrance fee for the entire team. Angry, Max tells Cammy to enjoy her time with Aaron and just rides away. At the Grover mansion, preparations are still underway for Simon's show. While Beverly oversees the preparations, he practices how to introduce the show when the time comes. He's still practicing when he feels something strange underneath the rug. Pulling the rug aside, Simon sees a basement hatch padlocked not so securely. He retrieves a mallet and struggles until he manages to bust it open. Then he opens the hatch and a ghoulish green essence floats out of it. Sadly, this green essence is Fears, and he wastes no time possessing Simon. Simon calls for Beverly, but before she arrives, Fears takes control of his body and puts Beverly's mind at ease.
All right, Aaron.
Still oblivious, Beverly announces that they're done for the day and goes on to pack her stuff. Just before she leaves, Fears requests for Max's address, claiming that he wants to pay him a visit. Without a second thought, Beverly hands it to him and heads out. Meanwhile, Max arrives at his home to find his mom struggling with a big painting. He helps her out, but soon realizes that she left a hole in the wall trying to hang it up. Max calmly dips his hand into the hole and feels it out until he comes across a small golden box. Inside it lies a black crystal, but the Doyles think it's nothing important. For this reason, Harriet advises Max to give the crystal to Cammy as a gift. Max likes the idea so much that he pecks his mom and bolts out of the house in search of Cammy.
What?
I think we've just been insulted.
She's busy practicing with the rest of her team when Mr. Kwan cuts them off. He announces the generosity of Aaron's father, only to add that Norm also provided them with costumes for their performance tonight. Right on cue, Aaron shows up with a box of costumes, and it turns out to be clothes advertising his father's fish market. Just then, Max comes knocking, and Cammy peels away to open the door for him. While they sit to talk, Fears heads over to Max's home. He knocks, and Harriet answers, starstruck to see the famous Simon Drake at her door. He asks to see Max, but for a moment, Harriet forgets that she has a son like that. After remembering she explains Max's absence and gives Fears a chance to come in and wait for him. Back at school, Max apologizes for being a jerk, and Cammy easily puts it behind her. He then hands her the black crystal he got earlier, claiming that it'll serve as a good luck charm during the competition. In turn, Cammy admits that it's beautiful, and they say their goodbyes.
It's beautiful, Max. I love it.
As for Fears, he stands around the kitchen as Harriet tries to make him some tea. Then he catches a glimpse of the golden box and grabs it after asking Harriet about it. He's so pissed to find it empty, but contains his anger as he questions Harriet some more. In response, she opens up about Max giving it to Cammy, adding details about the dance competition. Max returns home within the hour, but finds the house uncharacteristically quiet. Stepping into the kitchen, he finds his mom frozen in place, a cup of sugar in her hand. He searches for his dad and finds him petrified on a ladder. Even Colin is petrified outside. Confused, Max starts to yell, trying to call for Nikki and Tara. They appear as floating heads alone, wanting to know if Fears is gone. Still confused, Max wonders what they're going on about, so they reveal everything about Fears and how he possessed Simon. Apparently, the black crystal is actually Fears' life pod and was hidden by Tara and Nikki's parents. The way they see it, it must be a crystal strong enough to earn Fear's world domination, and Max realizes the amount of danger he has put Cammy in.
1 lump or 2?
As he rides as fast as he can to the venue, he calls up Cammy. Sadly, he doesn't get a chance to explain the situation before Mr. Kwon seizes her phone and ends the call. By this time, Fears is already on school grounds. The demon heads to the front of the line and uses his abilities to get himself in, petrifying the ticket lady while he's at it. Arriving at the venue, Max realizes that the front door is locked, so he heads around back. Luckily, the back entrance is unlocked. He tries to get to Cammy before she gets on stage, but once again, Mr. Kwon intercepts. Max gets pushed back out and told that only costumed dancers are allowed. Upon hearing this, Max sneaks back into the venue and grabs a costume just like Cammy's from the dressing room.
See you later.
See ya.
As the crowd troops in, Fears follows them. Unfortunately, a random fan recognizes him as Simon Drake and draws so much attention that people begin to take pictures. Fears literally gets turned around and eventually falls on his butt. Just then, the host introduces Cammy's team to perform first, only for Max to join them as they take the stage. Mr. Kwon almost loses his mind watching Max ruin his routine, but Max doesn't care. As he continues to warn Cammy that she's in danger, Fears gets back on his feet. Tara and Nikki appear just in time and notice Fears about to make his move. In turn, they decide to make Max the best dancer in the eyes of everyone. The other dancers gather round Max mid-performance to query him for intruding, but Tara and Nikki lift him out of their midst and into the air. All the onlookers are impressed by this, even more so when the ghost siblings help Max do a backflip. Just like that, everything returns to being interesting, with members of the crowd giving Max a standing ovation.
You're in the first row, Mr. Drake.
As the performance continues, Fears gets knocked down, trampled, and hit in the face on multiple occasions. Max rounds up the performance with a beautiful stunt, and the entire crew takes a bow as the crowd applauds. Regaining himself, Fears tries to chase after them, but an overexcited member of the crowd grabs him. Max uses this chance to pull Cammy away and asks for his crystal back when they get backstage. Sadly, Cammy gave it to her friend Phoebe, who promised to make her a necklace out of it. Cammy asks for an explanation, but when Max tells her everything, she doesn't believe a word. At this point, Tara and Nikki warn Max about Fears drawing closer, so he tries to round up his conversation with Cammy. Unfortunately, she thinks he's obsessed with ghosts and makes it clear that they're now broken up. Max is too preoccupied with Fears to process what just happened, so he lies to the demon that he's with the crystal.
We gotta get out of here.
He takes off his costume quickly and puts on a jacket as he flees from Fears. Meanwhile, Tara and Nikki try to push the exit close, only for Fears to slam them into a nearby wall, using only his eyes. Tired of the siblings always interrupting his plans, Fears decides to end them for good. Meanwhile, it begins to rain outside, and Max pushes through to find that his bike is missing. He has to run all the way to Phoebe's home that night. Upon arrival, Phoebe's brother, Bernie, lets lets Max in, not taking his eyes off his video game. Max interrogates the youngster about Phoebe's location, and when he gets a negative response, tries to go up to her room. Bernie only agrees because Max offers him a special video game. He gets into Phoebe's room to find it full of junk, and after minutes of searching in vain, Phoebe gingerly steps into her room.
I got the new Star Raiders game.
Quickly, Max asks for the crystal, and it takes a while before Phoebe gives it to him. Unfortunately, she bought replicas of the crystal, and now Max has no idea which of them is the real one. Phoebe claims that she can recognize it and puts on her glasses to inspect. She's distracted by her urge to hit on Max, leaving him no choice but to get her back on track. Soon, she hands him the real crystal, and her TV suddenly starts streaming Simon Drake's show. Fears uses the avenue to announce that he has Tara and Nikki in his possession, adding a video of both ghosts suffering. Then he gives Max until the next commercial break to bring him the crystal. Hearing Max's name from Simon Drake raises more questions for Phoebe, but Max doesn't have time to answer. In turn, he borrows Phoebe's bike in all its bedazzled glory and rides fast as he can to Grover Mansion.
You know him, Max?
He passes Aaron on the way, and the bully chases after him on his motorcycle. Max tries to explain that he can't stop, but a careless Aaron runs him off the road. Max stumbles out of his bike, losing the black crystal in the process. Then Aaron grabs him by the shirt and blames Max for everything that has gone wrong. Aaron believes that Cammy never wanted to be with Max, and he's distracted when he spots the black crystal mid-speech. Picking it up, Aaron concludes that Cammy gave it back to Max, only for Fears to show up, announcing that he wants the crystal. Aaron is so oblivious that he smack-talks Fears, and he gets turned into a pig for his troubles. Not giving up, Max grabs the crystal and runs the rest of the way to Grover Mansion. Upon arrival, he yells for Tara and Nikki, and notices the hatch leading to the mansion's basement. Pulling it open, he hears the ghost siblings begging him to stay away, but a stubborn Max pulls out his phone, puts on the flashlight, and forges ahead. Soon, he finds them trapped in some sort of machine, and all they keep telling him is to run away. Determined, Max tries to free Nikki and gets electrocuted the moment his hand touches the entrapment. Then, Fears approaches him, once again asking for the crystal. Max asks that his friends be released first, but Fears refuses. This helps Max realize that the crystal cannot be taken by ghosts, but has to be handed over.
I have to get to that house.
Quietly, Fears leads Max to the back room, revealing a prison of crystals created by Michael and Michelle Rowland. Apparently, each of the crystals holds a soldier of Fears, and until Fears' crystal is added to the bunch, he can't attain his true form. Max is given two choices: help Fears get his true powers back, or save his friends. Despite what Nikki and Tara say, he chooses to save them. Handing over the crystal, Max asks Fears to free his friends, only for the demon to admit that he was lying. He goes on to taunt Max for being stupid, and then adds his crystal to the rest. Fears begins to chant, summoning his men to wreak havoc on the world. His expression takes a dip when he realizes that he's been tricked. Thanks to Max's magic trick, he switched out the real crystal for one of Phoebe's replicas before handing it over to Fears. Now, the fake crystal creates the worst chain reaction, destroying the ghost prison and causing all the crystals to melt. During the chaos, Tara and Nikki get freed from their entrapment, and Max rushes to check on them. Seconds later, Fears joins them, his face looking like the Grinch stopped downloading at 50%. He instantly fires a shot at Max and his friends, but Max dodges it, and the ghost siblings disappear out of harm's way. Fears continues to chase Max as he runs up the stairs, firing bursts of lightning every chance he gets. On the ground floor, all the props Simon had set up for his show come to life: the doll, the rats, and even the elk head mounted on the wall.
It's up to you, Max.
As the rats approach him, a frightened Max backs away from all of them, only to run into the mirror clown come to life. He's so scared that he takes off immediately, running up another flight of stairs like his life depends on it. Suddenly, a calm washes over the mansion, and Cammy appears. She apologizes for the fight they had earlier, and Max forgives her, his brows furrowed in confusion. Things get weirder as Cammy asks for the crystal back, claiming that it's so beautiful. She opens opens her palm to receive it, but Max finds her desperation too suspicious and doesn't give up the crystal. Then Fears rids himself of the cami disguise, taunting Max till he breaks the wooden railing and falls. Max wakes up to find himself surrounded by white light. Still feeling fuzzy, he gets on his feet and finds it hard to believe when two people approach him in lab coats. They introduce themselves as Michelle and Michael Rowland, and Max instantly recognizes them as Tara and Nikki's parents. Michelle admits that they can't go back home, and the couple thank Max for looking after their kids. Apparently, the Rowland laboratory used to be at the Grover mansion, and they did all their experiments on ghosts there. They created ghost traps and life pod chambers to store evil spirits. The couple needed their works to be kept secret, so they spun the tale of the Grover mansion being haunted. Free to experiment, they created the ghost prison from which Fears escape. And since ghosts can't kill humans, Fears sent the Rowlands to the Elsewhere.
I'd really like to have my crystal back, Max.
Michael reveals that until the strongest demon is sent to the other side permanently, they can't be freed. Then Michelle asks Max to tell her kids that she loves them. Max wants her to tell them herself, so he breaks Fear's life pod, thinking it'll send the evil spirit back to the other side permanently. Sadly, the screams of Michelle and Michael suggest otherwise. After shattering the crystal, Max finds himself landing on the dining table, like everything happened during his fall. Everything that tried to attack him now lies lifeless, so Max pats himself on the back, claiming that he defeated Fears. Suddenly, the entire mansion begins to quake, and cracks multiply beneath Max's feet. He makes a beeline for the front door, but the floor gives way just as he gets there. Max almost falls into the twirling abyss, but grabs onto the ledge of the front door, screaming for somebody to help him. Luckily, Cami shows up and extends her arm, but a suspicious Max wonders if she's the real Cami. He only accepts her help after she insults him. They put some distance between themselves and the manor after making it out. Then they watch in horror as it's consumed by a whirlwind of dust and evil magic.
Maybe I don't want to.
Fears, screaming as he gets pulled into the abyss. Seconds later, all of it disappears, leaving Max worried about Tara and Nikki. He calls out to the ghost siblings, but they don't respond, and Cami can't stop asking questions about what she just witnessed. A delirious Simon Drake walks past them at this point, muttering to himself like a hobo evangelist. Then Beverly arrives in the company van, only to find her boss completely out of it. The moment Simon bursts into pointless laughter, Beverly sneaks him into the van and drives away to save face. The quietness of the night is only interrupted by Cami. This time, she's ready to believe whatever Max has to say, so they hold hands and he tells her everything as they walk back home. They arrive at the Doyle residence at dawn, and Max thanks Cami for saving his life. In response, she apologizes for Tara and Nikki and admits that she feels lucky to have Max as her boyfriend. With this, they say their goodbyes and Max heads into the house. For a moment, he forgets that his parents were petrified, seeing as they step into the kitchen with him. They all watch as Aaron makes the news for being found naked by a dumpster. Remembering the state he left his parents, Max thanks his stars that they're okay. More good news follows as Harriet reveals that they've changed their minds about selling the house. Colin expects Max to be happier about the news, but he can't be because Tara and Nikki are not around to enjoy it.
I know I am.
Dejected, Max returns to his room and sinks into his bed, eyes closed as he apologizes for failing Tara and Nikki. Then Max hears Nikki talking about him and Cami getting back together and absent-mindedly replies. After a moment, he's full of everything from joy to confusion and hugs the ghost siblings with all of his heart. He wonders how they survived, but the siblings aren't sure. They all recap how Max destroyed Fear's life pod, and he recalls meeting Michelle and Michael. Max goes on to narrate everything that happened with them and tells Tara and Nikki how much their parents love them. It's a beautiful moment as the siblings thank Max, but they soon wonder why their parents didn't return if Fears is indeed the worst demon out there. Suddenly, they start to hear maniacal laughter and band closer together out of fright. Of course, it's none other than Mr. Morgo, a demon much more dreadful than Fears. Having discovered his ability to see ghosts, Max befriended Tara and Nikki and promised to help find their parents. Unfortunately, Fears, a powerful demon, chased him down and almost ruined his life with little help from his friends. Max managed to destroy Fear's life pod for good, granting them freedom until the next adventure. Remember to celebrate your little wins, but never lose sight of the bigger picture.